Hey, Thomas Bart here with Trackify. I want to address an issue here that comes up every now and then in Trackify, but I also see it frequently in the different groups that are about Facebook ads and specifically Shopify e-commerce. And the issue is about attribution of Facebook conversion events, okay, that are tracked by the Facebook pixel. So specifically, conversion events are any events that track an action on your store website, right? So view content is a conversion event, add to cart as one, usually you have initiate checkout as one, and then of course purchase. A lot of times when people say conversion, they just kind of zoom in on purchase because that's what matters most, but just for conversation's sake, and so we have the terminology straight and cleared up. It's all conversion events, okay? They're all conversions. All right, so now that we have that out of the way, I want to show you the method and the numbers that are kind of typical over time. So there are actually two stages, two steps that we can follow along and see how the pixel was fired, how the pixel was received, how the pixel events were received by Facebook. And then that's the first step. And then the next step is, how did Facebook do from receiving the conversion events to attributing them to paid ads? And that's a big difference. And that big difference is by design, because there is a limitation that's built into the Ads Manager reports that, number one, only traffic and conversions are tracked there that comes from paid impressions of the ad posts. Now in Facebook, you can have impressions of your ad posts that are not paid. Those, I call them organic impressions, and they come from people tagging their friends in comments, people sharing the post on their website or on their pages, and other things like that. So organic impressions of your ad posts, even if someone clicks on them and fires view content, add to cart, initiate checkout, or purchase events in your store, these are never supposed to show up in your Ads Manager reports because those events cannot be attributed to a paid impression. Okay, so that's number one. The second limitation of the Ads Manager reports is that in order for the attribution to happen, Facebook has to be able to identify the Facebook user who clicked on the ad or viewed the ad within the attribution time period. Okay, so if there is a disconnect between the pixel event that fires in your store and Facebook being able to identify the Facebook user who triggered that conversion event, then that conversion event can never show up in the Ads Manager report. So that's another pretty important, pretty significant limitation. The third limitation is, and kind of a weird thing, is that the Ads Manager report reports conversion events at the time the attribution happens, not at the time that the actual sale happens, the actual conversion event. So what does that mean? That means if someone clicked on an ad yesterday and purchased the item today, that event is going to be attributed to yesterday's timeline in the Ads Manager reporting. Okay, so these are really the three most important limitations. Then there are also other limitations such as page load speed and performance of your store, and also depending on how many people use ad blockers and Safari browsers that are not supporting the Facebook pixels. So you can lose some raw events that way, and you can also lose some identification of Facebook users. That would be, the second problem. Okay, so having all that out of the way, I'm going to show you in two stores that are relatively small stores. Okay, so usually attribution problems do not affect significantly the results that you're seeing in your Ads Manager reports if you have a high volume of transactions. Usually when you have a high volume of transactions, the amount of conversions that are showing up in your Ads Manager report are fine, good enough to make decisions. And that's all that matters, right? So the pixel events are for two reasons. They're for audience building and therefore helping you make decisions on the ads that are working versus the ads that are not working. Okay, so when you have enough volume in your store, it's usually enough. There's usually enough attribution that you see in the Ads Manager report to not worry about accounting for every single event that gets there. Now, these two stores I'm going to show you are relatively low volume stores, and I'm going to show you today's events as they stand right now. And I'm also going to go back a little bit, and what you're going to see there is that when you're looking at today's data, you always have a higher impact of data delays and attribution delays and just delays in processing the data all within Facebook. And there's nothing that can be done about that with an app, or if you run the pixel in Shopify directly, it really doesn't matter. Those delays in Facebook are going to happen, are going to be there no matter what. Okay, so let's take a look here. So today, right now, here I'm looking at a metric in Trackify X, and you can see here it has 63 purchase events fired today. And let's take a look at the store here right now. So it says 69, but actually that was a little lower when I started this video. So I already talked for a bit here. And let's just go ahead and refresh this. So this is 69, and let's refresh this one. And look at today's event, and the purchase now says 65. Okay, so there are 4 events that either haven't been received yet by Facebook or have been missed, whatever, either of these two. And you can also, pull this up here, and you can see here are the purchase events that are logged, and you can see the hourly breakdown. Now, there's another little issue, and that is that in the Events Manager in Facebook, you are tied to your personal time zone in the time zone where you logged in, okay? So the Events Manager in Facebook has nothing to do with the account time zone or the Shopify time zone. So it can happen, and you can kind of go through this on an hourly basis and check how these events here line up with the events that you're seeing in Shopify. Okay, so if you want to go through that, if you have a relatively low volume store and you want to kind of count the beans there of purchase events individually, feel free to do that and convince yourself of how the exact data delay structure is and how everything works mechanically here. Okay, so we have 65 events here, and we have 69 events in the store. Now let's take a look at the actual ads, and let's refresh this as well and update it and make sure we're just looking at today's data. And so what we see here, I have this actually split out because this particular store is using an upsell funnel app. And you can see here, so total of 60 purchase events have been attributed. And out of the 60 events, we have 55 here that are initial purchases and 6 that are upsell or downsell purchases. Okay, so now we're basically looking at an attribution ratio of 55. That's initial purchase events, 55. And that compares to the store transactions. You can see the breakdown here. It's 69 orders total. 4 of them have come through the Shopify checkout, and 65 have come through the upsell app. Okay, so there is your breakdown there, and you can see, so out of the total of 69 orders, these are not double counting the upsells or downsells. So because of that, this is your number. This is your actual number of transactions, 69. And 55 of them have been attributed, and 65 of them have been received by Facebook so far. Okay, so that's that. Now let's actually go into the other store real quick, and I'm going to refresh this as well. This is a newer store, a slower store at this time, right? So you can see there are 8 orders total here. And out of these 8, we see 7 right here. This is the purchase right there is 7. Yeah, this was the same when I started, so I don't need to refresh this here. And here is your breakdown of the purchase events for the day in the hourly breakdown. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So that matches up right here with this number 7. And we have 8 in the store currently. Okay, so you can see that's pretty accurate right there. And now let's take a look at the attribution in this store, in this account. Let's see if we can see that as well. So here we have actually 6 purchases attributed. So that's a very high ratio, even at a very slow pace right now, right? So there are not many transactions today in this store, but 6 out of 8 have been attributed, 7 out of 8 have been received by Facebook, and 6 out of the 7 have been attributed to the same day. Now remember what I said, what I talked about in the beginning about the delay of the reporting, or I should say that when you get an event today and someone actually clicked on an ad yesterday or any time before, then that attributed event actually moves over to the other day. And there's not really a good way to see and capture that in your Ads Manager reports, right? You can go back here to a longer time period, but the problem with that is there's no way of knowing if the events that have been reported here came from today, or what the relationship is between when the actual sales happened versus what day was the sale attributed to. So that's just kind of a systemic problem within the Facebook Ads Manager report, and that's a limitation. So now I switched this over because that's the next thing I wanted to really show you here. I switched this over to the last 7 days reporting. Now, the last 7 days reporting is a little bit harder to see in Trackify because we don't currently have a reporting time frame that would pick that out specifically. But I'm going to show you how we can get the raw pixel event numbers just the same. All right, so let's take a look at this. So we have, first of all, let's start from the other side, right? We have 88 attributed sales between June 3rd and June 9th. That's for the past 7 days. And let's just take a look at the store here and look at this 7-day time frame. So we have 88 attributed sales, and there are 145 orders in here. So that's a typical ratio. Seems like there are quite a few events that are coming from outside of Facebook marketing. That's just an anecdotal example, right? So now let's take a look at when these events were received by Facebook. Okay, so I'm going to show you from within Trackify how you can quickly and easily get to the raw pixel events reporting inside Facebook. The easiest way to do this is from your dashboard. Just click this link here on the pixel that you have selected, and it will go directly into the Events Manager in Facebook. And here you can see the events, and you can then filter out the time frame that we want to look at. So we want to look at June 3rd through 9th. And then you can see the summary totals of all the different event types right here. So we have 114 events that have been received by Facebook in this case. And that compares to 145 orders in Shopify. Let me see, there are a couple of orders here that are actually coming from other sources. So in this case, we would have to filter this down by online store orders only. So it's actually just 137, and out of the 137, we have received 114, looks like. So that's a little bit on the low side. You should expect a little higher number than that. Usually when you inspect that, you're going to end up between 90 and 95% of all events. So again, to summarize, 88 out of 114 events have been reported in the Ads Manager reports. And you have here 114 of 137 events that were received by Facebook. So in this particular case, if that happens, if the drop is this large, just get in touch with us with customer service, and we'll help you out, and we take a closer look at why this might be a little bit lower than usual. Now let's take a look at this on the other side. I already clicked the button over here. So we're going to go to the same 7-day time frame. We're going to pick that time frame out in the ad account and in the pixel dashboard or events manager. and also in the store itself. So let's take then a look at that. 3 through 9, there you go. Okay, so what do we see here? We see 848 orders. Now I'm not selecting online store on this one because I actually want to see them all, because in this case the other orders are coming from an upsell app that also has the Pixel integration enabled. So I should be able to see these as well as the Shopify orders. So I'm basing my total count of orders here on this number, which is 848. So 848 orders here. Now the 7-day time frame here shows me raw events, 912. Now that's a higher number than the number that I was looking for, and that has in this case something to do with the fact that I have an upsell step in there, right? So the upsells fire additional purchase events, which is good because then you get more events and you get more optimization for people who actually take you up on upsells or downsells. So that's why this is reporting a higher count. But now let's take a look at the ads manager and let's check the attribution. So again, this number here, 912, is a little bit higher than the 848 that we were expecting. And those are the raw events that have been received by Facebook. And now the next step is we're going to compare the 912 over here with the attributed purchase events that are over here. And the cool thing here is that we have 3 columns for that, right? We can zoom into the purchase events. That's the sum total of all of them. And then we can also separate them between the initial purchase events and the up and down sell purchase events, okay? So in this particular case, we have 756 total attribution, and that would compare to the 912. So let's take a look at what the actual ratio is here. So what was it? 912 is over here, and here it was 756. So we're going to go 756 divided by 912, and we get about an 83% attribution ratio. Okay, we call this the attribution and the attribution ratio. All right, so if we base that's basing it off of all events, and now if we base it off of only the initial events, that would be the 848 here, right? Because this number doesn't count the upsells and downsells as duplicate purchase events. This here is total buyers, if you will. So that's 848, and we can compare the initial purchase column to that one. So what was it? Here it's 698, and here it's 848. So that's 698 over 848, and that's also just under 83%. So it's a little bit lower attribution ratio, but it's about the same. And so this is, for this particular store, a typical attribution ratio. Let's actually go back to today's numbers just to show you how this can kind of vary. So here we have 70, and then here we have today, and then here we have today. Okay, so here it is 55 of 70, right? 55 of 70, 78%. So it's a little bit lower on the same day, but you can expect that to kind of be all supplemented as the data comes in and as the tools inside Facebook process the data and process the attribution. And this is also an effect of, you know, today's 70 sales may not all have been attributed to today, but some of them may have been attributed to yesterday or to other dates within the attribution time frame because the buyers clicked or saw an ad prior to today's date. Okay, so I hope this helps. We have actually made a significant change in Trackify and Trackify X fairly recently that has led to a significant improvement of your page load speed in Shopify. And what we did is we moved the Facebook Pixel events so that they fire just when the page is completely loaded. And Before then, it was getting in the way there to fire the pixel events as early as possible. And we figured out that that was actually leading to a bit of a delay on the page load, not so much because of the actual Trackify event, because Trackify events are always very fast and they don't make other loading elements wait for them. They're loaded asynchronously, but the Facebook scripts that were called by the Trackify scripts were lining up and taking up space and taking up time. So with that having been corrected or improved, there's actually a significant performance difference, and the difference is very significant for pages and stores that are already very fast. So your page may be 30% or up to 50% faster because of this change. However, it's possible that you miss some events because now they're loading a little bit later, and it's actually the Shopify pixel integration has that the other way around. It actually fires the pixel events so that they are slowing down your load time. That's what Shopify does. So it's possible that with the Trackify integration, you're missing a few more events, but across the board with our users, we have found that you get better optimization and you get better results if you're firing it this way, particularly because your pages are going to load faster. Now, if your page takes 10 seconds to load, then a half a second or even a whole second that this change may make of a difference might not be that big, might not make that big of an impact. But if you're in that boat, you should just improve the page load speed in your store and not bicker over missing a few events, because if you have very few sales, then that might be a good reason why that is the case. And if you have a lot of sales, trust me, you're leaving a lot of money on the table by not fixing it. Okay, I hope this was good value for you. Thanks a lot for watching. This is Thomas Bartke signing off.